Hello! Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was a movie that was the perfect storm. It's such a beautiful, flowing movie. It's like listening to your favourite song. You know, no one had made a Robin Hood movie really like a proper Robin Hood movie since Errol Flynn's classic, and that was looked as the classic that couldn't be repeated. There were a few Robin Hood scripts bandied about at the time, and all of them were going to, or they were approaching Kevin Costner, who ended up playing Robin Hood in Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, in those other scripts. But Costner didn't like those other scripts. But Kevin Reynolds, who directed Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, had already worked with Kevin Costner, so they had a foot up in getting Costner. Costner's casting as Robin Hood was rather controversial. Now, in the movie, he doesn't put on an accent. Now, he tries to speak in a clearer accent, as does Christian Slater, who they cast to play Will Scarlet. Really, the star of this movie is Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham, who is freaking hilarious, but at the same time, there's something really deeper going on with this guy, with this relationship with this strange witch. But, you know, it truly is an amazing movie. And it just shows you when people care about what they're doing, what can happen. The mentality of this movie is the stark opposite of what happens today when they try and make a movie for a brand new audience, when they take something that's pre-existing. Robin Hood was a pre-existing, iconic folk hero. So many people around the world love Robin Hood. And when you look at these days, what they're doing with Snow White, they have no idea, because their ideology is more important than making a great, entertaining movie. Yes, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, is very contemporary, very modern. The outfits are very modern. They're not wearing tights. In fact, they fired the original costume designer for actually thinking that these people were going to wear tights. And then they brought in a better costume designer who knew what they were doing. But this movie just works because this is how you bring a character kicking and screaming in a modern world. You know, Michael Kamen, the deceased, you know, the dearly departed Michael Kamen, composed the music for this movie. And again, I was very surprised at how different Michael's music was in this film, because I'd loved his music in License to Kill, I'd loved his music in Die Hard, I loved his music in the Lethal Weapon movies, but what he did with this was something utterly different. It's a bit like Michael Giacchino's The Batman score. It's very different to the Lost music, the music he did on Fringe, because Michael Giacchino, like Michael Kamen's music, was rather identifiable. And so when you see a composer do something utterly different like that, it is utterly impressive. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio plays Marion in this film. And oh boy, yet again, she plays a stronger, more contemporary Marion. The only thing I didn't like is at the end of the movie when Robin's fighting the sheriff and she's just kind of sitting there looking scared and useless. I would have had her fighting the witch. You could have had, and I mean, we need to get into Morgan, you know, Morgan Freeman's character that they invented. He's not part of the myth because they wanted to have this kind of more. And it's a very interesting, you know, it's inclusive, but he's a great character and it works. So what I'm saying to you is, instead of Morgan Freeman killing the witch, it should have been Marion who did that in the end, just to give her something to do. But apart from that, it's absolutely brilliant. They gave us, with Michael McShane, a brilliant version, again, a contemporary version of Friar Tuck. The whole thing clicks. It's brilliant. What I thought was amazing about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which I saw twice in cinemas, because my first girlfriend's mum was obsessed with Robin Hood through her love for the Errol Flynn movie. I remember sitting in the cinema the first time I went to see it, and the excitement she got from watching this brand new contemporary Robin Hood movie was amazing. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is the way you make pre-existing films starring pre-existing characters. Kevin Costner had just come off of Dances with Wolves, so he helped Kevin Reynolds direct this movie with his kind of nuance as a director as well. This movie was a huge hit, as we know. Bryan Adams' Everything I Do was #1 for 16 weeks. In fact, Kevin Costner was a good luck charm for songs on his movies. Not only did Everything I Do stay at #1 for 16 weeks, we know that he chose Whitney Houston for The Bodyguard, whose I Will Always Love You also stayed at #1 for a long time. Kevin Costner was the movie star of the 90s, an amazing actor, and even though he couldn't do an accent for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, I don't care. He's still a brilliant film star, and he is great. He's a brilliant Robin Hood, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves will last forever.